Ohio State faces Akron in its 2024 season opener on Saturday, 3:30 on CBS inside Ohio Stadium. I'm Stephen Means. That's Andrew Gillis. And that's Stefan Krajisnik. And it's time to give our game picks. Ohio State a 48.5-point favorite, over under a 58. Stefan, what is your score?
Yeah, I've got Ohio State winning this game 56-0. I think Jack Sawyer inspired me to think that this team is actually going to have it in the back of its mind wanting to get that shutout that it hasn't in the last 5 years. I think the opportunity is there. You're going to have to avoid, your offense slipping up, maybe giving up a pick six or just, interception that automatically has the other team in field goal range. But I think Ohio State's defense is determined to finally get that shutout. And I think against Akron, arguably one of the worst FCS or FBS teams, there's a chance for Ohio State to make it happen.
Ohio State hasn't had a shutout since 2019 on September 7th when they shut out Luke Fickell and the Cincinnati Bearcats. So you're taking Ohio State to cover and you're taking the under, but not because of what Ohio State didn't do. It's because Akron doesn't score. I'm going to go next here, and I'm going to join you in the shutout, but I'm also going to push it a little bit. The most points Ohio State has ever scored against Akron was 62 in 1892. I'm saying they're going to break that by 1 point. 63 points. 63-0 Ohio State. That's an over, and that's Ohio State covering. And here's why. Ryan Day does have this habit sometimes of, I'm going to go pedal to the metal the entire first half. But once the job is done, the job is done. We're not going to run up the score on teams. I just think Akron's not a very good football team. Mixed with this offense might have a chance to be explosive. You might have just like 2 or 3 50-yard plays. My outrageous prediction was of that. Go watch that to see who I was talking about. Maybe you get a defensive score in there. But I just think Ohio State might trip and fall its way into like 48 points. And so can you get 10 more? Can you get 13 more? Can you get 15 more points? Maybe, just because their twos might get explosive when you're talking about James Peoples, when you're talking about Bryson Rogers, when you're talking about Brandon Ennis, and you're talking about Jaden Ballard, right? It's just, there's enough options on the table, Andrew, where they can get to 63 points just because they slipped and fell into 48 of them. Now can you just figure out the rest of that? So I went 63-0 Ohio State with a shutout and the most points it's ever scored on the Akron Zips. Where you going, Andrew?
Well, I'm laughing for a couple different reasons. I'm reminded of a call I had this week with my mom, who doesn't really follow college football, and I told her that Ohio State was playing Akron, and she goes, "Oh, so that's kind of just like a preseason game then, I guess, but for college, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, kind of, pretty much." I'm laughing because I have essentially a pity shutout, but it's not technically a shutout. I have Ohio State winning 56-3. It's like a gentleman's sweep in hockey or in basketball or something, where one team wins one game. You win the first 3 and then the other team wins one. So I think Ohio State's going to just go out there and just jump on them pretty quick. I think that this is going to be a relatively snappy performance from them right from the get-go. This is a veteran team. I don't anticipate there being a ton of learning curves. I know you're working in a new quarterback. You're working in a new offensive coordinator. Chip Kelly is incredibly experienced at calling plays. Chip Kelly has done this before. Will Howard, going into his 5th year, has done this before. You've got a great backfield. You've got an experienced offensive line. The defense is really, 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 really good. They're very experienced. There's so much here with Ohio State that kind of, you just look at the offseason that they've had. You just look at everything that's happened over these last couple of months. And I see a team that's really just rip-roaring ready to go. So I think Ohio State's going to jump out pretty quickly. I think they're going to pounce on Akron. That would be a cover for Ohio State. I think we're going over 2. But I don't think they're going to get the shutout. I think Akron is going to find a way to squeak 3 points onto the board. And if Akron squeaks 3 points onto the board, it's going to be a very funny Jim Knowles post-game press conference, because he's going to be a little bit upset. And maybe a lot of bit upset, depending on how that field goal happens. Maybe it happens in the second quarter. Maybe it happens with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. We'll find out. But Ohio State's going to roll in this one. I think we're going to be, for people watching on YouTube, we talked about this on the pod. I think this is going to be a let's see who's playing in the second half type of game for Ohio State.
Well, and your mom's on the right track there because the biggest upset from a quick Google search, the biggest upset in college football history is Howard plus 45.5 against UNLV. So there's a reason nobody's viewing this game as, hey, can Akron pull off the
Right.
upset? It would quite literally be the biggest upset in college football history.
Well, I mean, I don't know if App State Michigan had a line on that game. If that did have a line, I would be curious to know what that was. But you're right. In terms of betting spreads, it would be the craziest, and it would be something.
Andrew's essentially predicting that Ohio State's going to have what happened to it last year against Michigan State and Minnesota.
Yep,
When
that's
essentially
exactly what I thought of.
And then Michigan State and Minnesota made 50-yard field goals at the near the end of that game there, which were very, very annoying for the Ohio State football team. So that's 3 covers, 2 overs, 1 under. Those are our game scores. I'm Stephen Means. That's Stefan Krajisnik. That's Andrew Gillis. Get the text 614-350-3315. If you're listening to the pod, stick around. We got one more segment where we're just going to look around the country a little bit, see some other games that matter to Ohio State. And if you're watching on YouTube, go listen to Buckeye Talk wherever you find podcasts. We'll be right back here on Buckeye Talk.